tennis nerds. I'm here with a guy I'm sure you know, and I'm sure you're already subscribed to. It's Carousel, 278 in the world at the moment, top 300 player, fantastic ball striker, also makes excellent YouTube videos. And he made a sad one recently, which I watched. And yeah, it was heartbreaking, but I must applaud him for being so vulnerable because he had a big injury, a nasty injury in the Sarasota Challenger, and now he's on his way back to the tour, rehabbing. So how is that going, Karu?
It's been, good, I guess, because there's not much that I can do. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where, since it's like, a muscle tear, you just kind of have to rest. Like obviously you can do certain things on the side and just try to keep, the body hopefully in a decent shape. But for the most part, it's just not, I'm starting to like walk okay again and just trust that I can put a little more weight on that side. And it's just, to me, it's just boring. It's just boring because you really can't do anything, right? Like your mobility just goes out the window. So yeah, I'm hoping that in, about a week or so, I'm pretty mobile in terms of like at least walking. And in a couple weeks, like once I can move a little bit more, I actually probably will teach some lessons and things like that, just to like, have a bit of a routine and get out of the house and not just be like on your computer all day. But yeah, I'm hoping by early May, I'm hitting, like, maybe not playing full out, but hitting and be able to like just be on court. And by mid-May, I'd be competing or at least like, playing full out. So yeah, a bit annoying. It's never happened to me like during a match, something that's like, unless like, maybe your back locks a little bit that you feel like, oh, I can't continue. But in terms of like actually having like a proper injury that you feel it, you're like, oh, I won't be able to continue. This is not like, it's something minor. A little bit annoying, but again, at the end of the day, just taking the time and there isn't much I can do. So I'm just, trying to not drive myself crazy at home.
Yeah, that's a tough one. What you've been talking about in your videos, and you've been doing a lot of work on your fitness, and strengthening yourself a lot. And there's no real way, like what we talked before we jumped on, like of making yourself completely indestructible as a tennis player. Like something happens, and then that's what you have to deal with, and you've been pretty good. You said also in your last video about like managing your body, managing like, not overplaying. And that was this case here, I guess, right? As well. You didn't overplay or anything.
No, I continued to work with Andrew from Fit for Tennis, but I started working with someone else as well. And, I've been doing some good work, especially like, on Achilles and things like that like we, sometimes like we don't think about it as much, strengthening my feet, my toes, things that like often like you just, don't really work on. And that's, that's been great. I actually been feeling great on court and we pushed, but like, I wasn't playing that much tennis. So it was the time to push on the fitness side while my shoulder was kind of rehabbing. And so, we did a lot of good work and I was starting to feel like really good. I started towards leading into Sarasota, I was playing a lot of sets and, playing with Marcos and playing like, just trying to play as many, sets as I could, because that's just kind of what goes away. And, I was really feeling, faster and stronger on court and in good shape. So, I've always been good at listening to my body and knowing when not to like go crazy and push. This time again, I didn't feel like I was pushing at all. I felt like I was like starting to like, we kind of stopped with the fitness for a little bit, not stopped, but like, we started going lighter on the fitness and just really push on the tennis. And I was excited to, I didn't know how I was going to do in Sarasota, but to just have a sequence of events to really test myself. So that's just, it's annoying because then you feel like, you put all this work and it's just kind of a waste of time, but, it's not really, but in the moment, that's how it feels. And so that's kind of the annoying part.
Well, is there something with like extremely windy and difficult conditions and injuries? Like, I think that's something I've noticed, like often when you see it on the pro tour, like if the conditions are really tough, your body is kind of forced to adjust in multiple ways, not only to your opponent's ball, but also to the conditions. And that's sometimes when things happen. Maybe I'm imagining, but that's been a feeling I have. Like you see, you played in extremely tough conditions in Sarasota.
Yeah, that could be it. I wouldn't know really the correlation with that, but you're obviously, more like weird stuff happens. A bad bounce that might, like, you might make a weird push, or something happens that, it doesn't play sort of at the rhythm that you're used to be playing to playing the game. And so, yeah, I think that can happen. I mean, you can, easily miss hit a shot, and, you hit the frame, and all of a sudden, like, maybe your wrist pops or something like that. That stuff can happen. So, but again, with this, like, on-court injuries, I think they're just usually so freaky, and that's just like not much that you can prepare for. Like, there's no warning. Like, my shoulder, I was like, it's, it's been a bit painful. I can manage it, and then it just sort of gets to a point. It's like, okay, I really need to, like, stop it for a little while. But this is just, you can prepare for it, which is kind of annoying. But again, I guess it's all part of this whole thing, right? So you just kind of have to deal with it.
How stressful is the points part of being a professional tennis player? Like, you're thinking of weeks, missed points, missed qualification chances to Grand Slams in your case, and so on. How stressful is that part of being a pro player? Because, like, the points are on 1 year, and I think on the golf tour it's on 2 years.
Yeah.
Which gives you a little bit of respite if this happens.
Yeah, it's definitely stressful because, obviously, you to get a protected ranking, it has to be a, more significant injury that you're out for longer, right? So, like, in this moment, like, I'm just not playing, and, I had a good sort of, like, period here where it's like I don't defend that much. I had opportunities to, like, add, and now it's like, by the time I'm back, that's where, like, I started, like, defending some of my bigger points from last year. A couple semifinals of challengers, a couple, I think I won a 25. So it can get stressful. I think, I might have put a little bit too much pressure on maybe getting into French, I think, this year. Because I started the year, I'm going to play a bunch of challengers early in the year, didn't do that well. Played Cleveland, actually played some really good tennis, lost to the champion, and had the chance in Rio. It's a great opportunity, but you don't get any points. You know what I mean? So it's like, you go and play and you lose, and it's an awesome opportunity. I wouldn't trade it for anything. But, all of a sudden, you're sort of, like, months into the season without, like, really adding much, right? So that's, I mean, that's always the tricky part. I said it in early, like, my first video of the year. The sophomore season is always a bit harder. People already know you. I got up to a ranking where now I'm competing mostly in challenger. So, from the get go, you have to be good in challengers, and I think that's been the main adjustment. Where, like, sometimes in futures you can play yourself into the tournament a little bit more. Where in Challies, like, you draw Mackey first round, and, if you're not in your best day, like, you lose. Or you draw a guy that it's been, in a heater, you lose. So it's like, you have to come in very sharp, and that's, an adjustment that I just need to play more. And again, unfortunately, with the injuries and stuff like that, I feel like I haven't gotten enough reps this year. So it's tricky, but it's just kind of the way tennis goes. It's like this sort of never-ending cycle. You just kind of have to keep trying to get points.
Is the French Open your favorite slam? Like, there's a poster on the back, so I had to ask that question.
Yeah.
But, like, is it something special for you, or is it just another one of the slams?
uh, I don't know if it's my favorite. I mean, I have a U.S. Open here too. It's
I
just for
figured.
just for good vibes. Honestly, these days, because, I think I've been enjoying playing on clay and stuff. If I had to pick one to play, and I think have a good chance at getting through qualies, I think it would be French. Um, but honestly, I just want to be able to play in one of them, or multiple of them. Obviously, Wimbledon is really cool, but if you're playing qualies, you're not playing on site, so you're not really feeling like maybe you're having that same thing as, like, playing in the U.S. Open or the other three. So, but French, I think, would have been, such to me, is, again, I put a little bit of pressure because I was so close, and I was like really one really good week away, and that was it, because I wasn't defending so much. So, and it's unfortunately, it just never came. So, that's just, to me, just kind of the unfortunate part. But, there's still time. There's still, again, it can change so fast on you. You might be not doing great, all of a sudden, you're in the finals, and you know, everything changes. So that's just the reality of tennis, really.
So now you have like a physical challenge of dealing with your rehabilitation, and we can get into that. But there's also a mental aspect, a very strong one in tennis, right? So mentally, you will have to deal with like being sidelined. But have you done some work also, like mentally working on your game, you know, before this
Yeah.
injury and stuff?
Well, I've been trying to, you know, I've actually been trying to like write down some things. Like I brought a little like notepad just to like mentally. It's like one of those things. Like I personally, I operate a lot better when things are simple, right? Like when I'm not necessarily like overthinking too many things, and I think during the off season we did a lot of serve work, and you know we were working with a statistical company to just like kind of figure out where I could, you know, fix some of the holes in my game and things like that, and that's all like great to know. But then I think you get so hyper focused on those things. You know, for me it was like, you know, you want to improve maybe a little bit of speed on the serve, on, you know, first serve percentage and a couple other things, but you maybe get a little too hyper focused on that, and then you just kind of like just don't do what you do really well, like, you know, naturally. And that's been a little bit of a struggle I think I've had this year, where I was so maybe like focused on the serve performance and things like that, that I wasn't like putting in just like great, you know, career performances, the things that I just like do really well. And so mentally that's been like, I'm just trying to like sort of like reset back into just sort of that easy mindset that I came in last year. Like I, you know, I had nothing to lose. I'm coming in like just playing my game and doing what I do well, and just reverting back to that. It's been something I write down notes on my computer or notes on like here just to like find myself in a space where it's like, okay, I've done the work. This is what I'm good at. This is what maybe I'm not as good at, but I still win matches, even if those things aren't like firing at 1,000%. So yeah, it's definitely a tricky challenge again, especially because now you're playing more challenges, then you have to be a little bit more, you know, just better from the start. But yeah, it's a really playing pro tennis after a while. Like it's almost like it's easy to lose like your identity in a way, because you start just overthinking a little bit of like, oh, this is not working, that's why I'm losing, or this guy is really doing that super well and this is what he does and maybe that's what I should be doing, and it's easy to just be in that sort of weird hamster wheel instead of just taking a step back and just like, look, I put in the work, I do this things well, let it fly.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point and a good like philosophy to have. You mentioned that like going from futures you can rock up a little bit more casually, not very casually because they're all amazing athletes. But when you go to the Challenger Tour, everybody's a little bit more like in shark mode, right? Like if you start like poorly, then you're down in a hole, and then it's tough to dig yourself up. Is that something you feel strongly, like going from futures to Challenger?
100%. I think, you know, I played a lot of futures where, you know, you play great players like early on, and I've been able to do a good job like beating them. But also like, you know, sometimes you rock in and you're not necessarily playing your best, but you still play yourself into a match or something like that, even if you go down a break or go down a set, whatever it is. I think you feel maybe you have a little bit more time to get back into it, where in the challenge again, like you often are playing someone like 120 in the world, 115 in the world, or someone is like about to break through, or you know, so even if the tournament closes, you know, 400 in the list, like who you draw, if you're not a seed, you know, you might get some bad luck, and you have to really be sharp from the start. It's very rare that like, you know, you just beat someone 1-1 in a challenger. And even if you do, and even if you beat someone like in 2 sets, 3-3, it's like a bit more mentally demanding. Like you have to be really locked in the entire time. Or sometimes on a future match, even you know, you win 4-4, but like maybe you got an early break and you're able to just kind of coast through the end a little bit. Where in challenge, you're always like, you have to be like on it, because it, you know, it could be up 6-3, 3-0, and this dude gets a break back, all of a sudden we're even. So um, there's a big difference, and I think that's been part of the challenge, and I think that's the, you know, part of the reason why I wanted to play again and play at that level, and hopefully get that experience. And if I make it or don't, doesn't matter. But I got that experience and understand it a little bit more.
And it seems like the numbers of strong players, like real talents, and everything is becoming more and more difficult overall. Like as the tour is like becoming more and more challenging. Is that something you've noticed as well? Like you see new guys on the ATP as well. Like every week, it seems like there's one new name. You know, it's pretty shocking.
I think the depth of like talent has grown significantly in the last 10 8 years or something like that. I do think like any guy who is in the top 300 350, you put them to play a guy 80 in the world, like to me it depends a lot on form, I'm you much rather play a guy 80 in the world who's on a 6 match losing streak than a guy 200 in the world who just like ripped the challenger. Like that for sure is a big thing. And so obviously with the point distribution, the funnel that is created now, I think that you have a lot of players who have like top 100 caliber playing in the challenger tour, not being able to maybe get enough consistent results on the challenger tour to get through it. But you look at a guy like Brooksby who is barely winning matches in challengers, and he goes out and wins a 250. A Mensik loses in the semis of a challenger, wins a 500, wins a 1,000. Like I think that the challenger tour has gotten really, really, really strong. And I don't know if the model right now like really helps guys break through or not, because then it really you relies on your ability to play a lot of ATP main draws. And when you don't know if you're going to get in the tournament, you're going to choose to play the challenger, even though you should be playing maybe the ATP. And so it's a bit tricky, but like, man, I think the talent pool is so big. Everyone's a better athlete. Everyone can hit from every side, every corner. Like everyone can move. Everyone returns a lot better. I think that's something that has gotten a lot better in the last 10 years as well. And so, yeah, tennis has a lot of talent. I think like in any sports, like, you look at basketball, like every team has someone that can be an all-star these days, and multiple great players. There's just more talent. There's more science. People are, training smarter and harder. And so, yeah, sports in general are just getting a lot better.
You mentioned before that you did some work with like data analysis and like looking at the data to try to improve your game, and that seems like it's becoming more and more commonplace. Did you learn something from that besides like maybe getting into too much in your own head, which is kind of common? I start overthinking the details.
Yeah, I mean, it's Golden Sets they're from San Diego here. They've been helping out a little bit. Obviously, playing challengers, like you don't get the same amount of data as the people playing the ATP tour. But they've been helping, sending like some match reports from the other players, just so you kind of have an understanding on their tendencies and stuff like that. But to me, when I look at my own stuff, it's nothing major, nothing that like you don't know or you don't feel. You know what I mean? Like it's like increase your first serve percentage and accuracy a little bit. The second serves, with a little more pace to the forehand, like everyone is doing it these days. It's nothing like too major, but it is. I don't really operate that well, in a kind of locked statistical like form of wielding the game. Some people are really good at that, and I think if you can be really good at that, if your mind works that way, you obviously can have a lot of success. But like I feel like I fall more into sort of creative, feel the game kind of player. And so like, yes, I know this guy maybe hits his T serve a little bit better, but he just hit 2 there where I hit a great return. He's not going to go there a third time. He's going to go wide. So I'm playing the game a little bit more that way. And so I like I said earlier, I do think that like I maybe got in my head about the just like improving the serve too much, like over the off season, and maybe forgot some of like the other stuff that I should have been doing a little bit more. And so it's easy to fall for that trap. I don't think there's right or wrong. It's just like you got to find what process like helps you play like free, and not too tight. You got to put in the work, and then once you go play again, let it fly, and it is what it is.
On the bright side, if there's any bright side to being injured, like now you're at home. I know you're a homebody. You like to be home. Pretty recently married, and it's that part like gives you some time to reflect and focus. And what kind of plans do you have like for your channel? Like you want to do some coaching stuff? I mean, you also like capturing your other activities like on your channel, the Karoo doing things,
Yeah.
Which is really cool. So is that something you can focus a bit more on now that you have some injury weeks?
Yeah, I'm trying to I'm gonna film a couple different things like here in the office. I just filmed actually a video about what's like playing top 100 players. I think that's an interesting sort of like people sometimes don't really understand. I think ranking versus level versus like form, and like I put on Instagram like ask me questions about what it's like playing top 100 players, and most questions are like, do they hit harder? Basically, I'm like, you know what I mean? So like I think traditional media does a really bad job like at explaining, the sort of not the top 10 level, but the top sort of like 50 and below level here. So I'm gonna do some fun stuff like that. And once I can move a little bit more, I think I'm gonna try to do some coaching videos again, and maybe get Winston or someone again to do some of those series that I think that they always do well. Yes, I'm gonna do some like crew doing things videos. Like it's nice to be home and be able to do some of that stuff. And just I'm trying to stay busy. Really, I'm doing podcasts with you, doing a couple other like calls like this week, and it's a good time to sit back and just really figure out like direction of the channel and things like that, and what I can do, and again, mobility can be tricky, like not be able to like not even just play, but just be outside or go do something, and it's a little bit annoying. So hopefully, like in the next like 2 weeks, I can start being a bit more mobile and out of the house, so like my wife doesn't also kill me because I'm just here too much. But yeah, I'm just getting creative with whatever. I'm gonna post like I think tomorrow a video with practicing with Mark Lajal that I practiced in Sarasota. So like just go through my hard drive. Maybe there's something here that I haven't posted before or something like that. So it should be all right.
Do what does your kind of rehabilitation like what does it mean for you? Like do you have a good physio you go to every day? Do you like what does it look like?
At the moment, no, not really. Because again, it's such a. I've done physio for, many times, and I think right now it's like I'm actually using just like going to use the Norm Attack, to just like increase blood flow down there, and just go back to like doing some fitness. Obviously not using my legs and stuff, but like keep straining core. Yeah, that's kind of all you do in PT at this moment. Obviously some massages and things like that, but as it's just a muscle tear that just needs to rest. Like I'm just kind of trying not to do much really, and that's all it is. I'm not seeing a physio every day because I don't really think like it would do much. Like it would help for sure, but it's one of those things I think like it's just going to take care of itself as I straighten and other things and take in rest. So that's kind of all I'm doing. Some ice, cold therapy, hot therapy, things like that, just making sure everything is like okay. But you've been around so much that like at some point you're like, yeah, I kind of know what I have to do here. I don't really need to do anything.
Yeah, makes sense. So when it comes to the pro tour, I mean, you have many friends there, many followers, or we're in the same niche. What do you follow now? Like the ATP tour, the Challenger tour, or do you take like a little bit of a break from watching tennis?
You definitely see stuff on social media, but I delete like all the apps. I don't have like Resultina and like all those like the ATP app, just because I find myself then just the results of like some future in like Japan or something. I'm like I don't need this right now. So I am trying to like step out of it as much as I can. Like I've enjoyed. I think Monte Carlo is always an enjoyable event because it's so quick. The action is just happening, so I like the 1 week Masters because that is it just feels like every day there's just like good stuff going on. So that was actually kind of fun to follow. Obviously Carlos getting back into form is always fun. But no, I definitely will be taking sort of like a step back, and by the time I'm back, I think I'll be very hungry and really into like playing again and the whole grind of it. So being away from it like allows you to reset, I think.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. That's why I asked that question as well, because I think it makes some sense to actually delete Resultina and not get too
No,
bogged
yeah.
down instead.
Otherwise, you're just like, oh, this guy's in the semifinal. Oh, like, you're just like in your head about it, and you're just like, look, there's nothing I can do for at least like 4 weeks in terms of like competing. So like, why, you know what I mean? Like, even if the draw and some challenger opens up, and you're like, well, this guy made it to the final. You're like, I could have made it to the final. It's so easy to start like comparing yourself, and it's just like to me not a healthy thing, and it's something that obviously younger players are so bad at, right? Like they're looking at these days. I'm sure they're like looking at everyone's UTR and all day long. It's like, well, this guy's UTR just went up like 0.004. I'm like, who cares, But it's a hard thing to do even when you're older. So if you're younger out there, just taking a step back sometimes it's a good thing.
Yeah, the phone is it's a crazy machine, right? Like you have to limit yourself from overusing it, and making sure that you're not get bogged down in these mini games, whether it's watching Resultina or looking at followers or looking at likes, whatever.
Oh yeah.
You're
I mean,
doing.
it's the same thing, with what we do, right? It's so easy to just get like so caught up in the views, and like recently, like I felt like my channel, like it wasn't like the videos weren't getting like pushed as much as they were before for whatever reason. It was just like one of those where it's like, why is every video I post like 10 out of 10, like for like weeks, like for like a couple months? I was like, it's kind of weird, like. And it stresses you out because it's my job these days, and so it's the same game that we play for points in the ATP. We play for it here as an influencer, and to me, it's like it can be a little bit unhealthy that I don't I don't like to participate all the time. Obviously, we want to grow. We want to be able to make good videos that a lot of people watch, but at the end of the day, it's so easy to just like be on it all day long, regardless if it's for for as a player or as a content creator. So a little separation is always good. Create a lot, but try not to consume so much.
I think that's a good flow. Yeah, I kind of subscribe to that. In terms of like other social media, I mean, your focus is mainly YouTube, right? That's what I understand.
Yeah.
Like, do you at all worry about TikTok shorts or Instagram? Like, is that something that you pay a lot of attention to, or no?
Um, like maybe shorts a little bit. I've had some, recently I've had some decent videos on Instagram. But to me, I think that the YouTube is, the longer videos to me are just the ones that I enjoy making the most. There's definitely something there on TikTok that you might feel like maybe you're missing out if you're not using it, and people can create like such massive followings there so fast. But it's a bit of a world that I don't fully understand, or don't fully feel like I want to understand. You know what I mean? Like I think my medium is always going to be a little bit longer form. But I do think I'm gonna start doing a little bit better job with some of the short form, and I got some help on that. That they're going to be able to like pump out a little bit more short form content for me. So that's something I'm finally going to be able to do. But yeah, to me, YouTube continues to just be the one place that making the content is like the most rewarding, I think.
And also, it's more fun to do a long format, in my opinion, like because there's a story. Like the last video
Yeah.
you did, that was like a 30-minute one, and that becomes almost like a sitcom episode. It's not a funny sitcom in your case, this last one, but at least like it gives you time to really be involved in your journey, and
Yeah.
that's a bit more rewarding. Maybe I'm just old school, but I doesn't feed the ADHD gene so much.
Yeah, no, again, if someone's going to sit through, a 30-minute episode, like they're invested in what you're doing, the same way if I sit through, a 30-minute episode of anything, like I'm invested in that, right? Like, I think the short form stuff, like, yes, you can have a little fun with it. The problem to me is short form. I think you always have to be a little bit like, you have to like try to like create engagement in different ways. You can be a little controversial. Like when I made my video about Roger, that I was like, this is just a silly joke, you know what I mean? And but I knew it was going to be like all these people just like take it serious and like, how can you say that when Novak exists? I'm like, just relax. But those are the things that if you want to play that game and grow, it's almost like the the way to do it. And I don't particularly like that world. I don't like to be just like a take giver on things. There's so much I could just be sitting here like there's news on this or there's news on the PTPA versus I could sit down and be like, this is my opinion on everything. But I don't particularly like to do that. It's not really, it doesn't feel like authentic to me in a lot of ways. And so, you know, every once in a while you kind of have to play a little bit of the game, but I just feel like the short form content is more catered towards that world, where with the longer form we can actually try to, you know, tell a story, tell like some, like I'm, as much as it, you know, it can be a little bit, you know, this world of making content can be a little bit like, you know, a little self-centered, a little just like you're always talking about yourself, but like I can only talk about like my experience, right? Like I can't just like go criticize this person or I don't know what they're going through. I don't know what ticks them, what gets them going. So it's like I can only really speak from my experience. And so short form can be tricky when you have to, I feel like, engage bait a little bit.
No, it's I resonate 100% with this. I think it's also tricky when you're getting too like into actual stuff. The lifespan of that content is like one day, you know, like that's generally like that there's no point in, then you have to do more and more work and you will have less quality because you're doing more quantity. So unless you're growing like a team of like 3 editors and you're just chilling there and spitting out content, it's not really a feasible way of living life. I think, you know, it's difficult.
No, it's, you know, it's tricky. And obviously, like, you know, if you're getting, let's say, you know, brand deals and things like that on short form, it's good because you can post more, right? Like, let's say you can post like once a week, and 4 of those 7 are like a brand deal. Like, you obviously can make like more money. You know, I've recently did a couple like brand deals on Instagram that I've never done before, and so like, yes, it's great. But, you know, I sometimes watch, and don't get me wrong, I've had a lot of brand deals now on the YouTube channel. You know, I've always, you know, Element, things like that, where it's like, you know, this video is sponsored by this video is sponsored by that. I enjoy doing that because I enjoy working with these companies, because to me, it's like, I don't really have to sell you on maybe a subscription or something like that. I can, you know, make the money by promoting a product that I really use. And, you know, if you want to skip through it, or don't buy it, like, that doesn't matter, but I can continue to make content for free, right? I don't have to put anything behind a paid wall. But I often see like, but at least like it's just a small portion of the video, right? Like you're still watching like a video. Where I think sometimes on short form, like you see, you know, some accounts that have a lot of followers, but like I feel like every post is just like an ad for something, or just like, oh, Wilson brought me to this experience. I'm like, okay, like, it's like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what you want me to do with this. And so, again, to me, it's just, it's a place where, you know, you can post like some fun stuff and have some fun with it. But I just feel like the amount of work I have to put on for a short video, like, it doesn't really do much for me.
You mentioned getting help on the short form, but you still edit your long form content like yourself, or?
Yeah. Well, I've had an editor now for a while, and we sort of, you know, I'll edit most of it. I'll edit like, you know, I'll cut out all the dead stuff. I'm the one choosing most of the stuff, and then she just comes in and really cleans it up. If I do a short, like if I do a more talking head video, she does a great job, like, you know, adding, you know, B-roll or text and any transitions that like keep the video a little bit more dynamic. I have a very, to me, editing like a vlog is very easy, because it's just like I'm just sort of going like in a timeline of things, and then I just pick like whatever makes the most sense in like sort of the story I'm telling. But sometimes when you just do a big talking head video and you're talking about different things, and you have to like populate that video with like, you know, B-roll and text and showing examples of what you're saying, that can be a lot more time consuming. So that's like when the editor comes in and does a great job. She also cuts like a, you know, a little bit of like my short form. So I'm still like, you know, we do like, you know, I'd say she does like maybe more work than I do, but there are certain videos where I just like, I couldn't give to anybody, you know, like this last video, I couldn't really give that video to anybody to edit. I had to be the one who edited that because, you know, I sort of went through that week. And like I said, in that video, I was like, I wanted to make a bigger vlog. I wanted to be not necessarily just about the match, but about the week, about this, like sort of like I'm chasing French Open kind of thing. So you have to be the one who edits. And but again, I always, even if I finish an edit that I'm like, oh, this is a great edit and I did everything, I'll still probably send it to her and maybe like add a little text here, add a little something here. So yeah, it's it's tricky. It's tricky to like, you know, maybe give away the editing part because like you're the one who's living it, and you know, you want to make that the most honest thing that for that week, I guess.
Yeah, I completely relate. Like I've tried editors, but like for the vlogs, especially, I like doing them myself. I don't do as many vlogs, of course, but if I'm on a trip or something, I know the story I want to tell, or like if it's something funny that happened. But if it's a talking head, I do that editing now, but it's kind of boring and it takes time. So you have to send me her name or something because
yeah, no, I will. The talking head is the talking head is like usually the hardest ones to edit because you're just kind of like, you know, do I add text here? Does it make sense? Or like there's just stuff that, you know, an editor sees a little bit better. They're able to like create with what you say. They're able to create a visual thing of it that is like really good. But yeah, and I vlog, and especially to me, it's like it's, you know, when I'm doing the longer form stuff, you know, for example, like it's hard to have a plan, right? Like, so I go to Sarasota, for example, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm going to make this vlog. I'm going to try to film as much as I can. And I'm going in with like, let's set the, you know, the goal, the hook, right? Like I'm trying to make it to the French Open. Let's see what happens in this week. Let's see what happens in the following week, right? So you set this goal and you try to film as much as you can, but like really you don't know the story of the week until the week's over. So you're just kind of filming a little aimlessly, just filming stuff, but you don't really know like what's the success here, like, or failure, until the week is over. If there's anything like that, or if something happens that is even more like, you know, it's even better than the hook you created before in your head, right? Like maybe something happens like, oh, an epic match happens or something. You're like, oh, okay, maybe we shifted to that. So that's kind of the tricky part when you're doing this like on the go stuff, because you come in with an idea of like maybe what you want to do for the week, but you don't really know what will happen until the week's over. And then you can like, okay, I can cut this into like a story that makes sense. So, you know, like I did that last year where I was like, oh, I'm going to go to Bogota and I have 2 tournaments and I potentially can break my career high here. Will I do it? Right. And then I go and like, I not only do it, but like I end up like winning another tournament, and it was like a huge success. It could have been a huge failure to video, but it would still have been a good story. But then it becomes like, okay, this is my first challenger semifinals. And there's all these different things that you can then create. So it's again, you have to film a lot, but like the aimlessness sometimes can be tricky because then you have all this footage like, well, okay, how do I do this like in a way that is engaging and fun?
Yeah, you have to do a lot of B-roll, and like you said, like I mean, that's been my struggle sometimes as well. It's like that I don't like narcissists, right? So, and I feel like I'm a mega narcissist if I'm running around with a camera. So if I had a person filming me, I wouldn't be maybe too worried about it because that's what it is, right? But if I'm running around with a camera, I feel stupid. I mean, most people don't have this issue today if you look around when you're in a city or whatever, but I have that issue. So it's
Same.
like, yeah,
100%. If I'm like filming myself, like I you know, like I've had times where like my wife is around, so she has like the little camera I have, and then we get a lot of B-roll. It's kind of cool. But to film like yourself all the time, that's why I've had the most like I just recently sold like my big camera because I'm like, I don't use it. I only use it to use a talking head video, because when I'm on the go, I really don't want to pull out like my big mirrorless camera to film. So I just use like my Osmo, or my, like, I have a Sony little camera now, point and shoot. And I just try to like honestly make it more like old school vlog, you know, like because I think the world of like YouTube has become like everything needs to be perfect and cinematic. Everything's cinematic. I'm like, relax with the cinematic. We're not making like, we're not Martin Scorsese here, right? Like we're not making like, you know, movies. Like you have to tell good stories. It doesn't really matter visually. Obviously, if it's high quality, it's great, but now I have like this two little cameras that to me I can set up anywhere. You know, I have a little clamp that I can set up it anywhere, and then I feel like I can actually get like decent cool shots without feeling like a total narcissist, because it is, I trust me, I struggle with that stuff. Like you watch the video, I'm like, I either film some practice, or I'm filming in the hotel, because I don't want to film like, you know, on the courts, like, I don't know, the players are there. It feels a little weird, but you know, it's just the life that we're living, I guess.
I think it's a part of the world, but I know what you feel, like what you mean, like with you know, running around with a big camera. Like it's nice with this. I also have an action cam now, and then you know,
Yeah.
you can use the iPhone. That feels a bit more natural because people
Yeah.
use the iPhone for whatever. Or obviously, quality versus well, story is always interesting, because now the level, as with the tennis level on the tour and everywhere, right, it's getting higher. So people are like producing these you know,
Mm.
amazing looking videos. But I think for most people, and for me, I mean, I'm watching a lot of YouTube myself. Like I have my, not within tennis usually, but
Yeah.
like I'm watching other stuff, and I kind of like it raw. You know, I don't like it
Mhm.
overproduced. You know, I don't. I feel like, okay, this is Netflix. I don't need to watch
Yeah.
Netflix. Then I would watch Netflix. So,
No, that's exactly. I think there was a period there of YouTube where like some people came into YouTube like really upping the quality. You know, like some, the Peter McKinnons of the world. Like back in the day, they're doing awesome B rolls of like, you know, coffee grinding and things like that. And I think people really got into that. And there's so many good filmmakers. People are so good at using a camera, creating like short films and things like that. That looks amazing. Don't get me wrong. I think there's really, 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 like, there's this guy, I just found his channel. It's called Ultra Sharp Films, and he does like just like tutorials of like, of, you know, how to shoot things better and whatever. But the way he does it is so unique, it's so original, he's so good at what he does, that I was like, wow, I haven't seen something like that in a long time, that like it actually feels fresh, right? Like, he's a small creator. I mean, he has like a 25,000 subscribers at the moment, but I think he'll blow past that very, very soon. But I do think there's been like a bit of a shift back to sort of like, people want a little bit more like less produced, more like raw content. To me, I think the hardest part is always like, I use my DJI Osmo a lot, the Pocket, because I can use the wireless mic, and getting good audio is always so difficult. You know, if you're having to like sync audio and things like that. So the Osmo, I was always receiving good audio. So I end up just shooting on that a lot, because it gets, you know, it gets the best audio. Like I can deal with bad quality video. Like you can figure it out, you know, B-roll, but like you can, if you mess up audio, there's nothing to do. So I think that's the main thing. Like actually getting good audio is the hardest part, especially
yeah,
on the go,
always.
when you're on the go, right? Like here we have, you know, we set up our mic and it's great, whatever. But on the go, it's very hard to get good audio.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's true for most people. Like, I mean, I sometimes listen more to YouTube than I watch. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
you just put on something and you're kind of listening to what they're saying, but you're not actually watching the footage. You know, it's
Exactly.
like a more of a talking head thing, or so. Do you have any other channels that you watch that are like outside tennis? You know, I guess you're not watching a lot of tennis on YouTube.
Yeah, I have, so my favorite channel is probably like this kids from Oregon. They're called Sickos, and they just go around. Let me try to see what I have on my YouTube here. They're just like, they've just been going around just doing like, you know, like they grew up like in the mountains. They're all skiers and kiteboarders, and they just started doing videos about, you know, different, you know, sports, and now they work with you know, Red Bull, and they get all the best athletes in the channel, and they're just like, you know, they're just young kids in their 20s just living it. They're like, we're sending it. They're in Croatia one week, they're in Switzerland the other week. They're like, so they're, I just like enjoyed that stuff. I watch a lot of car YouTube and tech YouTube, and um What else do I have these days? But yeah, just kind of the usual stuff. I love some old school vlogs still, like from like guys that when Peter posts or when Casey and I have posts stuff like that. But I'm trying to like limit my watch time on YouTube as well. To be honest, like not be on it too much.
Yeah, I think
What
the
about
YouTube
you?
has
What
a,
are you watching?
yeah, it's a good question. No, I watch a little bit of everything. Like tech, I watch a bit if there's something that could be interesting, from the biggest one, like it could be Marcus Brownlee or like Mr.
Yeah.
Who's the Boss or whatever. But I'm not super tech guy. I watch chess because I used to play chess kind of semi-professionally, so I keep up to like
Cool.
if there's some streaming, just keeping up with that. And I watch some tennis, a lot of like some guitar, music theory. I write music and sing, right? So that's my passion. Besides, tennis is now a job, so this is kind of what I try to do. Like yeah,
I love that.
yeah. So
I
it's
get a
like
lot of. I watch a
mix,
lot of weirdly like. I get a lot of. I for whatever reason I enjoy watching drum covers.
Oh,
I
that's
don't know
cool.
why.
I know which ones you're watching.
Yeah, I just like go and I listen to a song and I'm like that was like some good drumming and then I'm like I want to see someone do that and then you watch like some people like doing drum covers and stuff like that. So I get a lot of recommendations on that. I've been getting a lot of recommendations. There's this channel called Skate IQ with this
Mhm.
kid Mitch. I think Mitch Briscoe is his name. He used to be like a legit skateboarder. Like did like 900s in the what's it called, the mega ramp. Like the kid's legit. The guy's legit, and now he like just teaches kids, teaches like how to like do proper like ollies and things like that. And I'm like, I don't even skate, you know what I mean? But like he does it so well. You can tell he really knows his stuff. Like it's not like some guy that is just like doesn't really know his stuff. And you see him like teaching the little kids. It's like, here, like what you do, and they go and they try like 3 times and they get in. They're so stoked. So it's funny when the algorithm starts like recommending you like just random stuff. I hate when the algorithm just like recommends you like it's kind of like the same thing that you always watch. So yeah, it's a fun world, but you got to cater in the right way.
I find like the YouTube algorithm to be the most dangerous one in terms of stealing your time because like it is quite good, I must say. So usually if like I log into to YouTube and I mean it's pretty well like presented like okay this I would watch this and then you can easily get down a rabbit hole. I'm not at all easily captured by Instagram. I'm not a like a doom scroller there, I'm not
Yeah.
so excited by that. It's like feels just like so short and just kind of pointless, you're just wasting
Yeah.
time. But with YouTube, it can be like, oh, that's fascinating, and that's fascinating, and you're stuck,
Oh my God, YouTube, like late at night. Sometimes my wife goes to bed, and while she's getting ready for bed, I'm just like, oh, I have my 20 minutes of YouTube, and then all of a sudden I'm watching the most random thing ever. Like it's just like it's some oh that looks fun, whatever. But again, that's the point, right? Like I think to me that longer form, like 20 minutes, whatever it is, something that can be educational or just entertaining, whatever it is. Like I find it to be more fun. But everyone has their fix. The short form stuff like can be, if you really use TikTok, man, that thing can like really pull you in. Like it's a good algorithm. Don't get me wrong, but it's you gotta kind of avoid it, to be honest.
Yeah. One more I watched, which is a bit funny, is Beard Meets Food. He's like he eats, like just does food challenges, and that's not at all what I'm interested in normally. But like I just got hooked on his videos because he goes to these diners and stuff around the U.S. and anywhere and does food challenges. But it's more the interaction with the people than the actual eating you don't
Yeah.
care about. It's just amazing that he eats a lot, and he's a fit guy. So. It's
Crazy.
just a weird thing. You just tell someone, they're like, "What the f? Are you on?" But
There's
that's
niches
YouTube.
for everything, right?
Yeah,
There's a way of like creating an audience, and it's an interesting, I think, this world of creating, right? Like I'm trying on my second channel, I'm trying not to be a niche guy. I really don't care like if the videos are doing well there or not. It's just like I just kind of want to post different things that I want to talk about just for my own escape of the work that has become like the main channel. But there's always like you can always like go into a niche that like people are gonna find it. Like I'm sure gardening videos get a lot more views than we get in tennis. You know what I mean? Like there's construction or whatever it is, fixing cars. Like there's so many things out there that you can find your own audience. And I think sometimes when you sometimes I think about what we do, and I'm like, what am I doing? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you ever have that. Like, you're just like a little
Yes,
imposter
yes,
syndrome.
almost every day.
Yeah, it's just like, what am I doing? Like, why do people care about this? Like, you don't, you just kind of get in your head about it. But I think there is something to be said about, you know, in the world of like content, to be able to cut the middleman, right? Like, if people just enjoy what you do and you're able to get an audience with whatever, if it's building Legos or if it doesn't matter. Like, if there's people who enjoy it and they want to watch, and you're able to provide them with like some sort of entertainment, like, you know, I think he shows like, it showcases a lot more talent, lot more talent from people, not necessarily just the stuff that like, it's like just go bigger just to get more views. I'm not talking about that, but I'm like, someone that can, you know, make awesome bars of soap is probably getting like a lot of views, you know. But like, you know, it's a talent that they have, and without this world, they probably wouldn't be able to showcase that. So I think that's kind of the cool part of like what we do. We're in the tennis world, but there's just so many worlds out there that we're just kind of don't know anything about. Um but it's I'm glad that it happens, that people are able to, you know, make a living or whatever, even just enjoy their talents and show their talents.
Yeah, for sure. And it's cool. Like we celebrate different people's interests, and it's kind of nice. And you get a lot of like support from your YouTube following. Like,
Yeah.
how does that feel? Like, now you had the injury, you know. I'm sure people were really like sympathetic. I checked some of the comments because I was. It feels like you have a pretty strong like fan base and not so many trolls over there. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was really. Um, I wouldn't say surprising. I thought, obviously, like, for the most part, I think I have a cool, strong following of people who, you know, are supportive, are interested in my story. But it was really like, whoa, like, this was like, it was very, very cool to see, you know, how everyone's like behind me, and, you know, they're, um, you know, they were glad that I shared it, like, you know, in the way that I shared, because again, like I said during the videos, like, it's such a weird thing to go and record yourself after something like that happens, right? Like, you don't plan on like crying or making it big. Like, I'm not acting. I'm trying to act there. I'm just like, I just wanted to give a little recap in the moment, because that's the best time to, I guess, film that. And so, but everyone was just so supportive. And so it's nice to see that we have that community, uh, that I have that community on YouTube, and you know, we hopefully, again, this is just sort of part of the story. And so, like, if I can share, I shared a lot of ups and sharing some downs now, some bad luck, and it's all part of the arc of playing sports, of living life, or whatever. So it was really cool. I mean, shout out to all of them, because they were really nice. Those people were really nice in the comments, and um, you know, it's not like always like that on the internet, I'd say. So it's that's good to have.
Yeah, I think that's nice to see, because I think generally, like, if something happens, like this was a negative thing, I think people are generally more supportive than you think, even on the internet. I think like it's
Yeah,
very few trolls step out. You know, they kind of stay in the shadows when that
yeah,
happens. You know, it's more like if you have something positive, they will be like some jealousy. I think the jealousy is worse. You know, when they're like, "Oh, this guy, why does he have 200,000 followers?" Blah blah blah. You know, so
yeah,
I think this is more. People can relate a bit more to negative things happening, maybe,
yeah.
and be
No,
supportive.
that's true. I think, like, yeah, when you're doing like it's kind of, when I made that video about, like, you know, how much money I made or whatever, that video kind of went a little more viral than typically my videos go. And there was a lot of, you for sure, there was a lot of comments from people that clearly don't follow the channel, probably didn't even watch the video. They just sort of like
No.
saw the title, the thumb. And, you know, it's always that comment. It's like, we just got to win more matches. Oh, like, I'm so tired of like these players wanting more money and blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, you didn't even listen to what I said. You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to like just give not necessarily just my perspective on this whole thing, but just pull the curtains a little bit on the whole thing. But that, whenever it's like, it's actually funny when your video, I think, does well and reaches like a wider audience. That's when actually you get like weird comments, when it's not your core audience. Like, it's like, you know, it's just being pushed out to more people, and then you get a little bit more negativity. And so I still read comments. I'm not, I shouldn't, but I do think like reading comments sometimes give me like a better like understanding of like the pulse of like what people want to watch and what, you know, what might do well, what might not do well, and in what I'm sharing, to continue to like tell like a good story. So it's not necessarily the best thing to like always like read comments, because you read 100 good ones and you read one bad one and you only remember the bad one. But I think it's important to just kind of have that back and forth with the audience, really.
I thought about that, but I think maybe you remember the bad one because there's not that many, right? So I think
Yeah.
like if you had 100 bad ones, because that's a famous thing we talk about on YouTube all the time, you know, like all the bad comment is sticks in your head, but it's because
Yeah.
hopefully, unless you do something really terrible, it's like you're not getting that many bad ones. So you will
Yeah.
remember like, what was this guy? He didn't like my sweater, or he thought I looked like this, or whatever. You know, it pisses you off. But then that kind of stands out because all the other ones were like lukewarm positive or very positive, you know. So
Yeah.
it's kind of fascinating how that works, the mental part of it. But as a player, I think, you know, it's even more maybe sensitive to not read the comments because you're like, maybe you're in a tournament or you're focusing to improve something, and you get some comments on the game, because that's like, it's so important, your mental sanity as a
Yeah.
tennis player, right, to perform.
Well, there's definitely, I think there's some accounts now that like post basically like all the challenger matches. They like, I don't even
Yeah.
know how they do it that fast. It's probably some AI clipping the matches and stuff like that, and they're posting the highlights. So like you finish your match and like somehow the highlights are already like on YouTube, and those are the videos that like I try like not to watch, and they don't even get recommended anymore, because like you go through the comments, it's like the same people. You know, when you win it, it's like that's like the best I've seen. Carew definitely top 100 level, blah 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 blah. And then I lose a match, and it's like clearly he's not working as hard as he should, or like he's just like it's over, like whatever. Or he's like he's throwing the match because he's like, you know, fixing matches, and it's just like, you guys are all so dumb. You know what I mean? Like the flip flopping is very dumb. Like pick a side, hate me or like me, but just like don't be in the middle there. So those are the ones that like you want to avoid. But my own like channel, and like if there's a troll, I troll right back, and I'm like, dude, I'm happy that you're not here. Like you don't have to follow, you don't have to do anything. I'll tell you to go f off if I need to, because like you don't have to be here. You know what I mean? It's like you're not really paying my bills.
No, I don't like trolls either. Like I can happily block them or do whatever. I don't really care about that. I don't
Yeah.
enjoy it, because there's no point in like you come to your living room and you're like, oh, you start yelling. I mean, you wouldn't do that in real life. Why do you do that on the
Yeah,
internet? Like it makes no
exactly.
sense. It's just someone who's suffering from something.
Yeah.
We have to get into the racket change, of course, because this is a
Mm-hmm.
tennis nerd channel. We do a lot of racket stuff and talk. But you had played with the Percept 100. You had an amazing season, Percept 100D to be exact. And you were testing, considering a little bit when I met you in California in November. Still in the middle of the process, I guess. But then, and now you're with Technifiber T-Fi 305S. Also 18-19 string pattern, so quite fascinating. That quite similar in head size. People don't know this, but if you actually the companies list like 98 and 100, but if you don't round them up or down, the T-Fight is not that much smaller in head size than the Percept. I think like it's actually like a 98 point something, you know. So quite fascinating change. How has that process been for you, and how did it kind of come about?
Yeah, it was sort of like, you know, during the off season, like you said, I was trying a lot of stuff, and just trying to maybe get something. Like everyone is maybe going for a little bit more power and stuff like that. I'm not ever very opposed to changing rackets or changing gear, because I do believe that, you know, maybe the technology is getting better. There's stuff that's going to help you. Um, you know, I tried everything, Babolas, Wilsons, things like that, but nothing really felt very natural. And I was basically going to stick with the Percept, even though the reason I was like looking to kind of move away from the Percept is that I just felt like I was really good at like sort of one thing, like one style, like one condition. Like if there was the right condition, I could drive the ball with it. Um, I was going to play really well, but in the moments where I needed to be more creative, where I needed to maybe serve and volley, where I didn't trust the 100 at the net, I could never find the right weight or balance for me to volley well with it. I just couldn't stick volleys. So that limited like sort of my ability to come in, or my confidence to come in. And so I just like, I was just looking for something just like sort of in the between there, between like my 95 and my 100. Like I was playing with the V Core 95 and then switched to 100. And I just wanted something in between the 100. Also not necessarily the easiest racket to serve, not like the snappiest racket, right? You kind of have to like labor the racket to serve. So yeah, just trying to find something like that. Eventually, like just like really couldn't find anything until basically the last like week and a half of like training before going to tournaments, and then sort of last second, Technifiber came in and they wanted me to try the 305S, which was actually a very similar spec racket to the 100, right? 305, 1819, just smaller head size. So it was kind of like the perfect, you know, starting point. I trained with it. The way it comes like stock form, I liked it. I knew I was like, oh, I can work with this, but like for whatever reason, I always felt like that racket feels a little head heavy. It just comes in like it kind of shoots the ball a little bit more. Like it's weird because it's light, but it feels a little heavy. Like I don't know how to explain it. It's just the way it kind of I felt the racket. So, but I was like, I can work with this. And so, you know, I still went to the first couple tournaments with the Percept because, you know, it wasn't enough time to change. And then, you know, working with Dieter, I ended up going to Belgium to work with Dieter Kalle so he could, you know, balance the rackets properly, change the grip shape, just put the grip like in a more like normal, like head Yonex kind of shape grip. Cause I think the Technifiber shape, like, they have to like move away from it. I've said it. I told them. So yeah. So the first batch of rackets, you know, we made them like very head light, and then I made some final adjustments. I don't like necessarily the specs, but just to like make it a little bit more modern, more head light. And now in the second batch of rackets, I made the grip a little thicker, so now it feels a little bit feels like kind of perfect. It's just like that was something I was struggling with my backhand side. Like I couldn't find really my right grip on the backhand side, and now it's like it's kind of perfect. And switching in and then adding a little bit of weight on the head just to like give me a little more stability, a little more plow through. And so I think I now really found the perfect spec for me, like with the racket. And I'm really happy with how I've been playing, with how I've been practicing with it. Like I know maybe results wise, I haven't done that well, but I don't think it's the racket at all. I just think it's like, you know, bad luck, some unfortunate injuries here. But I'm looking forward to you know going back on tour with the racket just being slightly heavier because that's giving me or head heavier because it's giving me a little more depth. I'm trying to, you know, I can swing a little, I'd say slower, but just a little bit more smooth and still get like a lot of power and depth and so yeah, it's been good. I'm glad I'm working with them. We're gonna do some stuff. I think I'm gonna be at the French Open qualies week to do some stuff with
See you
them.
there.
So yeah, let's do it. Let's do some fun stuff there. So you know, being able to work with a brand and hopefully like, you know, evolve, you know, the space, you know, in working with brands and getting the players on the channel. And that's something that I've, you know, moving forward from my just pro career to like my YouTuber career. That's something I really want to do. I want to be able to play and compete against these guys, even if I, you know, not on tour, and then we can talk about their rackets, we can talk about their products, whatever. So it's been a, you know, long, I've been yapping here, but that's just kind of it's been nice to like work with them. I think they're in the forefront of like this change in the environment, so in the influencer environment. So it's been cool to work with them, and I love the racket. I think it's really good. I think the reviews, you know, you tried it, right? Like, how do you like it?
Yeah, it's a great racket. I think maybe one of the most well liked across the board from other reviewers. I mean, I don't follow all other reviewers because then I would go crazy and get maybe influenced by other people or whatever. Uh, but I tried it really early, like in November when I met you, right? Like the week after was the first time I tried it. It wasn't really revealed yet. You know, I didn't know it was going to be a glossy white, which I'm all for. I think it looks stellar, especially with your leather grip. You know, it looks amazing.
It looks
You know,
great. Yeah.
yeah. And that's, I mean, it's not everything, but it has some importance, you know, like the Percept, it's a good stick. It doesn't look great, but it's a good stick for sure. But I felt like Technifiber really upped their game with these T fights. They're quite raw, so they're not the most dampened, so people need to string accordingly a little bit. But you have to, if you're like a purist, you like tennis, you like to feel the ball, you really feel the ball with the racket. Like if you, it's a strong connection to the ball. It's not like overly dampened like some sticks are today. So I really liked it. And 1819, I think, is kind of like I've always been a fan of 1620 or 1819. I think like these 1820, they're going away slowly. Like you see, even pros, like they're moving away a little bit. It's too much hitting the tape or not getting enough shape on the ball, overall. And 1619 for some will have a bit too much launch depending on the frame. So I think we're seeing these hybrid patterns. So I mean, so I'm not surprised,
Yeah, the 1819s and 1620s, like they need to be in more frames, Like I think the main thing I couldn't do with Wilson is like I couldn't do with the string patterns. I think like I only had 1820 or 1619 to choose from, and neither one of them really works for me. And so that's the one thing I'm really particular about, like a string pattern. And I think there's so many rackets out there that would be better with, this string, the 1620 or an 1819, like I think there would be more opportunities like for, let's say a head, radical at 1620 or 1819. I think it would be a great racket, or a prestige, even like a 1620 prestige or something like that. Just with the patterns that they come in, I'm not able to play with them. So, yeah, I like that Technifiber is like at least experimenting a little bit with some of that. I wish that like even had 100 at 1819 or I think that would have been a good racket too.
Yeah, that was my feedback to them. Yeah. Actually, the 100 I really liked. I thought it was like quite good power, good stability, but I think it's a little bit too open with 1619. So if they've done that as maybe two models, then for people who like, they want the 1619, but also having that in 100, you can even have an 1820 and it performs okay. But in a 98, like you mentioned, probably the blade you meant with the Wilson, like it's
1820, like it gives you nothing.
No, it gives you nothing. I know some pros like they use it, but you're seeing like Korda, you're seeing guys now with 1819. I mean, Novak switched to 1819. You're seeing it more and more, and I think it will keep on changing, because it's too demanding to play with 1820.
Even the other like line of the Technifibers, it's like the TF, I think TF40 or whatever.
TF40,
yeah, the one that's like a little more square, the beam, like it's just like it's a little more like the Percept. I wish they had that one in an 1819 version, because I would have liked to try that one. It's just I know as 1619 I just will not be able to like mentally play with it. Where if they offered that one in an 1819 version, I think they should. I don't think anyone should offer 1820 like unless it's like 100 plus the racket. Like it shouldn't be nothing 1820 like makes any sense anymore.
No, it's changing quite a lot around on the tour, and I think that the tour will then push it maybe out a bit more. But it doesn't mean that even like club players, like decent club players, having a 1619, since I think like club players need sometimes more control than you very good guys, because they cannot maneuver or swing it fast enough, right? So they need the control to be able to control the ball, and then when you're like putting in 1619 in a powerful racket, it's just like the ball just shoots out, and you're seeing people missing more,
Exactly. No, I think like I think that's just like such a a lot of people are trying. A lot of the pros are like trying the Fonseca racket, right? Because it's
I know
a 1620, but it's 98. I don't really know which model it is. Like you probably know better than me, but I know a lot of players. Even Marcus was kind of curious about it. I'm like, yeah, it would be if Yonex, at the time when I was like switching, was making a 98 1620 the same way that my 95 was a 1620. Like when I switched to the Percept, right, from the 95, I would have just gone to the 98 probably at 1620, but at 1619 I wouldn't.
No, I 100% agree.
At 1819, I would have done that too. But the only offerings that like Yonex had at the time was a 1620 95 or an 1819 100, right? And so I don't love both of those, the middle options, right? The 97 at 1820, I can't really use that. The 1619 as well. So I think the brands would do so much better if they kept doing like 1620s and 1819s. I think that would just be making way more sense.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised that 1820 is still going strong, like that they're making it for the retail market, because even having like these super heavy 97H for if you talk about Yonex, like
Sure.
Percept 97H is 330 grams unstrung. Like you don't need to sell that to like anyone. That's fine. Like if you're a pro and you want to play a super heavy racket, like you can customize it, like get a
Yeah.
customizer like you did, right? But if you're a rec player, I think it's gonna be a
Yeah, who's
tricky
gonna play
one.
with that racket? Like, you know, like because Marcos is like the 97
D, right? The
H
1820, yeah.
1820, yeah, D, which is
Yeah.
comes in 320 unstrung. I mean, that's a good amount of weight, and that doesn't leave you a lot of room to like customize it. Right? Like a racket that's 300 grams, you can add 15 grams to it, but really customize it your own way. A racket that's 320, you add another 15 grams. Doesn't matter what you do, it's still gonna feel, I think, a little bit too heavy. And
Yeah.
like, who has also the knowledge to customize that, like on their own? So don't get me wrong, all those rackets, you know, they're perfectly fine. They're all good sticks, but I do think like for the more, if I was running some of these companies, like I'd be doing things maybe a little bit differently.
Yep.
Which I actually
100%.
think like Tangled Fiber is doing a good job. Like they're like, like we got, you know, we got like multiple of these like 305s, 300s. They're coming in at a good weight, and there's some different like string patterns from different kinds of players. And if you want a little more pop, maybe you play with the EGA version. If you want a little bit more control, you play with mine and all that. So it's like it's a weird market, but there's definitely, I think they could be offering more string pattern options for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And kudos to Technofiber, because I think also they're talking about being the player centric company. And I did have Patrice Chabrel, who's their like engineer, on the pod earlier, and I must say, like, and I met them also in Rotterdam, and they're doing a good job. Like, you know, getting you is a great step in the right direction, but also working with influencers overall, right? And giving making their players a little bit more active in the social media thing,
Yeah.
because I think sometimes the companies miss a good opportunity to activate either content people, the right content people, but and also their players. You know, they don't really find a good way of activating them in a positive manner.
It's a tricky thing. It's definitely a tricky thing, because I think that the brands, especially when I speak to Technofiber, the brands are starting to see it, and I think they're probably more open to the ideas. But now you're having to deal with, you know, the player's agent, and you know, the whole like, well, he's at a tournament, he doesn't want to be bothered, and like, you know what I mean, he does like the 1 hour of media that he has to do for the week, and they don't want to be bothered. They don't want to be in, they might want to be in the videos, but like it's like they almost have to be forced into being in the videos and stuff like that. And so it's like it's like, how do you break through that? And hopefully, you know, they see the value. And like, again, we each of us as like the content people, I think, have their own strengths and weaknesses, right? Like, and do like you know, you could be talking way more in depth about gear than I would, but I can go out and hopefully, you know, play and compete with them and really get an understanding of their game. And so, you know, there's so much that can be done, and I think just slowly but surely, hopefully, we can push the brand into understanding that, and hopefully the players and their agents to understand that, like, them being, you know, spending an hour with me or with you on for a YouTube video will really humanize them and get people to like them even more.
Yeah, it's a challenging one, because like I've been to some events with players, like, you know, organized by brands, and it's tricky because you do notice that like the players, they're fine, you know, to hang out, whatever. Like I mean, I know several like ATP pretty high ranking pros, and they're really nice guys, pretty easygoing. Not all of them,
Mm-hmm.
but then when the brands keep pushing like long events, I understand. Like they want to be at home chilling with their girlfriend, like we're at the hotel room, like in the gym,
Yeah.
whatever, and the brand is forcing them like a 3 hour thing. And I understand that's uncomfortable. Like that's, I wouldn't
Yeah.
like that either, right? So
Yeah.
you have to find the balance, you know, like where you really listen to the player, and you also try to find the optimal way of using their time, so it's not like a
Yeah.
wasting their time, you know.
Exactly, and I think it's, you know, it's especially tricky during a tournament or preparing for the matches, the day off. They really want to be doing something like that, but again, I think the brands in themselves have to like start being. I mean, we're paying you money for this, right? Like, and we have to be able to like direct you into certain places without much. Like, I'm not saying like you're gonna be with 4 hours with me on court. I'm just saying like they'll gain more by being you know, on YouTube channels than by, you know, shooting a commercial. You know, spending 3 hours shooting a commercial that no one's gonna watch versus 3 hours that you cycle through a few YouTubers and we each make our own videos and there's no work for the brand and for the player. It's just besides being there. So yeah, you know, it will take a bit of time, but I think like if we look at golf, like I think we can hopefully try to follow the same route and get there.
Yeah. Talking about golf, you enjoyed watching Rory take
I
the
did, man.
Masters.
That was a stressful freaking 4 hours, man. Holy
Yeah.
crap, he made that difficult. Like on 13, I'm like, oh, we're done. It's over. He's up 4. Like we're chilling, and he somehow like just toes a wedge into the water. I was like, Rory, are you kidding me right now? And then the same at 18, I'm like, just throw a little wedge in the middle of the green, 2 putts. Let's get out of here. He made that hard, dude. He made that really hard. But I made myself a day here. I was just I didn't miss a shot. It was a you know, it's the silver lining of like being injured. I literally watched so much golf this week. Now I want to golf, but I can't because, you know, I still can't. It's not even the walking. It's just like I don't really want to torque my calf on a driver. So, but soon, hopefully.
It was one of the best marketing. I mean, maybe he got paid by some golf company, but it was it was one of the best marketing things for golf because the drama at the end and everything, and like that he got through. Because if he had choked that championship away, it would have been like, oh my god, you know, that the suffering, you know, for people.
That last one at the U.S. Open was already so brutal. You know what I mean? To do that at the Masters, like with like the way that it was going, I was like, that is crazy. That would have been, I don't know how you recover from that. So at least now he can just like play and be done, you know?
Yeah, I think that's a cathartic thing. One more thing about the gear before I can let you go, but Tourline, it's a partner of yours, and I know the guys as well. They're super nice and do great strings. K-pop is your choice, right? Still, and did you change your tension or anything when you moved over to the new racket?
No. I mean, I went down. I mean, I'm mostly stringing S58
Yeah,
these days, not mixing too much. Like with the Percept, I was doing, you know, sometimes 62, 60, maybe going a little higher there. With this one, I just feel 58 is enough. Every once in a while, I'll have like, you know, 2 at 58, 1 at 60, just in case for the match. But no, haven't changed much. Haven't changed the string. It's still the same, you know, K-pop blend that you buy. We're working on a new packaging to make it a little more fun. So
cool.
that's something that's coming soon. And I've had a few players now, you know, try it out and like it. And, you know, I'm trying to like help out some people that want to, you know, use K-pop as well. And yeah, I think we just launched recently on Tennis Warehouse Europe, so people in Europe can finally buy it. And we always got like questions on how to get it and all that. But Europe, it's a big market, so we're there now, and yeah, we continue to work together. That was something I even talked to Technifiber. I was like, look, they've been with me for a while now. We have a really good, you know, setup together. I really like working with them because, you know, they took a shot at me like early on, and you know, Technifiber was able to accommodate that for me, which is great. Obviously, they want, you know, their strings and all that stuff, but like we've been able to figure that part together, and now I think like, you know, I'm with 2 companies that you know really see, you know, the value of what I do, and I really appreciate them for that, and hopefully we can continue to sort of build together. So yeah, but yeah, K-pop, man, go try it out if you haven't. It's a funky little name, and it feels maybe gimmicky, but it's funny when a lot of players have like now hit with my racket or tried to string. They're like, "Oh, this is actually really good." I'm like, "Yeah, it's good." Like wouldn't be playing with something bad. You know what I mean? It wouldn't make any sense. So it's a good string. It's pretty affordable. I think it's gonna stay affordable even through tariffs. As my, you know, I talked to Eric about it. So, you know, go check it out.
Yeah, recommended. I've tried them. I tried all the Tourline strings. Being a fan of their products and company, and their, I like now that you can have the more established companies. I mean, you do have Head Babala Wilson. They're probably the most established. Technifiber is a challenger on the side that's popping up,
Yeah,
and a
they
very
make great
established
strings, man.
challenger. Yeah, and they make
Great
really
strings.
good products, but they also can take more market share. You know, when they do the new T fights, they have a little bit more, you know, aggressive push. And then you have a completely new company on the scene like Tourline, actually come in, get some really strong players like yourself, and they have some doubles player on the WTA, and probably will get more players.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see these young companies actually challenge a little bit, because it's needed, I think.
I think it's needed. I think, again, I think it's hard to find like a bad string now, right? Like I think most companies are making probably solid products. I do like the approach that Tourline has had working with influencers. The packaging is really cool. You as you can go and buy a different blend, the omakase stuff. So like I think they're sort of doing it their own way. For a company that is not that big, but I think they're very excited with what they're doing. They're always like, whenever I talk to them, they're always like cool, and I think it's only going to grow. I think they're working really hard, and if people should definitely try them out. If you don't like it, again, you don't have to use it. But I find that their products, it's pretty solid. And
yeah, it's exactly. And if you can use it on the Challenger Tour, like, then you can probably use it on the club level. I think
exactly.
That's generally a feeling I have.
You probably don't need to spend like $50 on Luxland.
No, exactly. And also Lacoste, is that something you have an established relationship with? Because I've seen you in Lacoste wear, or is it like a little bit loose?
Not really. A little more loose. They send me product. They've been helping, so it's cool. Actually, recently there was something in Miami, I couldn't make it, and hopefully we can continue to deepen that relationship as well. But no, nothing, no ink on paper with them. It's just like, to me, obviously it's great. I really enjoy playing with their clothes, and I think with Technifiber and Lacoste it just kind of makes sense. But yeah, hopefully we, again, they have a big roster of people and on their team, and that's a company that I'd like to get more involved. But to be honest, it's one of those things, like there's so much going on that like I think this is, a lot of it can be a post career thing and all that, because at this moment, like, I mean, again, I would love to have something signed with them, but it would also have to make sense. If you're tied into a company, it has to make sense, not only obviously financially, but like with what can we do together to grow. So yeah, but it's been cool. They've been very supportive as well, and hopefully we can continue to strengthen that. Yeah.
Awesome. And do you have like a business manager of some kind you work with, or you're like doing a lot of this kind of also admin stuff yourself, like signing contracts and all this?
Well, my wife reads a lot of my contracts. I work with a management group, Select, but just for like the in-video sponsorships, like those kind of deals. The admin part, you have your basic like accounting firm that is bookkeeping and doing all that stuff. So yeah, it becomes a little bit, that side of the business can be the side that like I once it's tax season and we needing to get different forms and things like that, I'm just like, oh, what is going on here? I have been having to adapt since kind of acquiring from my partner, who was really good at that. He's like he's the guy for that. So but yeah, just a little bit of everything, but just I'm trying to run as much of a lean business as I can, just myself, maybe an editor, maybe a couple other people if needed. But I'm not the person who wants to become a media company and this and this and that. Like I do like to be small in the number of people that are around and contributing, just because this gives me a little more freedom to do what I want to do. But yeah, there are parts of the business that you don't really realize you're going to have to deal with until it becomes real.
Yeah, it's a headache, especially the taxes and stuff like that.
Yeah, it is.
It's tricky, especially when you're content creation, because like the income comes from different places, and it's like sometimes you don't know, is this small enough or large enough to be even like worth doing something there, or I mean, it's a hassle, but we all live in that world. Thanks, Karu, a lot. Thanks for your time, as always. Always fun talking to you. You have a refreshingly honest and straightforward, and I think we share many ways of looking at things. So I always enjoy chatting with you, and I wish you best of luck for the rehabilitation and your return to the tour. I think you and Sinner might return in the same way. Like,
I know we're gonna return at the same time. But yeah, no, it's always fun to chat, and hopefully we'll see each other at the French, because I think I'll most likely be there that qualifying week. So maybe we'll do some content together there.
That would be awesome. That would be fun,
Yeah.
actually. We look forward to that.
All
Cool, man.
right.
You have a
Okay,
nice
talk
nice
soon.
day.
All right, take care.